go ahead and get started. Are you expecting others to join us, Mark?
We got a couple notices of committee members who couldn't make it. I can
Right.
double check the roll against who's here.
Okay.
Mark, you're coming through kind of soft. Can you boost the microphone level? Oh, maybe that's it. Thanks.
I think that might have been the problem. Is that better?
Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started then. I'm Steve Cherney. I reside in Reston. I'm the chair of this committee. Let's go around and have all the committee members introduce themselves. Joe, do you want to go next? Joe, you're muted.
Yeah, Joe Gazarek, worked for Deloitte in Arlington, Virginia.
Okay, and Ross?
Ross Shearer in Vienna in Northeast Quadrant.
Okay, and Anne Marie.
Hi, I'm Anne Marie McKinnon. I'm in Vienna North. I don't know. Old Courthouse and Beulah Road. What part? I mean, I know that's north. As Ross, I'm not sure where that is relative to you. So northwest, maybe?
Okay, and do we have any other committee members with us tonight? Someone I haven't
Yes,
met
Steve.
yet.
Ed Umbrella's here.
I'm sorry?
Ed Umbrella's here.
Oh, hi, Ed. How you doing? I didn't see you. Okay.
I joined at the last minute, sorry.
Okay, that's great. So I believe we have a quorum then, which is good. Okay then.
Steve, this is Jessica Ramakis. I'm here from the Vienna Town Council.
Oh, hi,
also
Jessica.
Present.
Okay,
Hi.
we have a super majority. Okay, great. Okay, okay. Well, to those of you who haven't been before this committee before, this is a citizens group in Hunter Mill District that's we are sort of an informal planning and zoning review group. We make recommendations on applications that come before us to the Planning Commission and to the Board of Supervisors. We represent different parts of the Hunter Mill District, and I think that's probably about all we need to say at this point. Sometimes our Planning Commissioner, John Carter, joins us. I don't know if will be joining us tonight. But anyway, we just have one application before us tonight, and it's the first time it's coming before us. It's a special exception amendment regarding the Wolf Trap, the barns at Wolf Trap. So if the well, just to give you the number, it's SCA-82-C-027-002. So would the representatives of Wolf Trap just identify yourself and give us tell us about the application?
Sure, and good evening, everyone. My name is Kathy Taylor with the law firm of Walsh Colucci. It's been some time since I've been before the Hunter Mill Land Use Committee. I think last time I was before you all, you were still in person prior to COVID. So it's nice to see everyone again, even though it's on a virtual setting. So I do represent the applicant, which is Wolf Trap Foundation for the Performing Arts. And I'll go ahead and very quickly just introduce our team. We have Damon Effingham, who is a representative from Wolf Trap, and then John Chesky is our project manager. We have Travis Frank, who is our civil engineer, Grizz Dwight, our architect. And I believe that's it from the Wolf Trap team, but hopefully between all of us, we'll be able to answer your questions this evening about this proposal. So I will go ahead and share my screen. I do have a presentation, so hopefully this will help guide our discussion. All right, can everybody see that? Thumbs up from anybody just to make sure we're good. Okay, so as mentioned, this is the Barns at Wolf Trap, and we're identifying the dining and restroom improvements. So typically I like to orient everybody. I'm sure everyone is familiar with this site. However, here is kind of a aerial view. You can see the property where the Barns is located is outlined in red. So of the various Wolf Trap venues that I'm sure many of you are familiar with, this specifically is south of the Dulles Toll Road along Trap Road. So zooming in a little bit and kind of shifting the site, the parcel itself or the property is comprised of 2 parcels. You can see them outlined here. It's a total of 17.245 acres. The entire site is zoned to the R1. There is a 100-year floodplain and resource protection area on the site, and you can see the RPA is hatched there in red. So just by way of quick background, the Performing Arts Center that operates on the property today was established by special exception back in the 1980s. In accordance with this approval, the Barns was constructed, which is comprised of 2 historic salvage barns. Since that original approval, there have been several SC amendments, which have been approved. The most recent occurring almost 20 years ago, over 20 years ago, back in 2000. So that approval effectively permitted the construction for the Center for Education, which you can see to the north of the Barns. It allowed for an addition to the Barns and also an expansion of the parking lot and other site modifications. So you can see that Center for Education was constructed in 2003, and that this site is currently governed by that approval back in 2000. So now we've superimposed sort of what we're going to be discussing tonight. Just again, by way of kind of a brief background on the Barns itself. The Barns hosts over 80 performances annually. This includes internationally renowned artists, local bands, comedy, chamber music, the Wolf Trap Opera Company. Hopefully many of you have visited or attended an event at the Barns. They also offer rental programs. So if you haven't gone for a show, maybe you've gone for a corporate event. They do weddings, mitzvahs, holiday parties, etc. at the Barns. So the application tonight is to essentially upgrade and improve the facilities for all patrons at the Barns. Effectively, we would be creating a new 1-story third barn addition, which, while I will provide more details of the purpose of that addition later on in this presentation, I first wanted to just provide a general overview of the proposal in context of the existing site conditions that you see on the slide. As you can see, in relation to where the Barns, you can see kind of that yellow portion where the new addition would be integrated. Much of the overall site's existing condition remains unchanged and in its current state. You can see the addition would remain well outside of that on-site RPA area, as well as any environmentally sensitive areas. The addition would also remain a good distance from both Trap Road as well as the abutting residential homes to the south, and minimal landscaping will be affected with the proposed addition, where the 10 acres of the site will still remain in tree preservation areas. Specifically, the applicant has also been mindful to ensure that the dense transitional screening, especially to the proximate residential homes, will remain, so those won't be touched. And in addition to the preservation efforts, the applicant, you can see there's kind of a few trees that will be added to the parking lot area. So we will be adding supplemental deciduous trees to enhance on-site parking landscaping, where all new plantings will be non-invasive and native to the extent possible. And finally, there are 2 access points along Trap Road, and all of that will remain unchanged with this proposal. So this kind of zooms in a little bit more just so you can kind of see a closer view of where that new barn will be located, which is alongside the southwestern facade of the existing Barns. So now we kind of wanted to provide a bit of context to the actual request at hand. So this, sort of provides a look into the actual Barns facility. Like most performance venues, the Barns offers an ancillary food and beverage concession program to its patrons. In review of the original development conditions that were approved back in 1980, this concessions was actually identified as an ice cream bar. Since that time, as many of you may know, the supportive food service has evolved and expanded, where the present food offerings include a full dining menu and bar. So typically, pre-concert food and drink offerings will usually occur 90 minutes before showtime. And the doors to the auditorium will open 30 minutes prior. So you can see the existing condition is in blue on this slide, which reflects the current pre-concert gathering spaces. So right now, when you have all the patrons that would come for any type of pre-show dining or gathering, the space can only accommodate 130 to 150 patrons, which is less than the capacity of the auditorium. So in addition, you can see that the lobby area, which is number 1, and then 2 is one of the dining areas that you can see on this slide. You can see that the existing interior layout is quite constrained, which often results in insufficient circulation or any type of food service can conflict with the show's audience cues. And then the yellow stars that you see on this slide indicate existing bathroom facilities, which again is, to be honest, inadequate to accommodate the number of patrons that come for these performances. So here's another view. This is showing you 3 and 4. Number 3 is another supportive dining area where, you know, chairs can be set up. And number 4 is where the main bar food ordering concessions area is. So then the new barn that we are looking to add is in the red. It would essentially provide some much needed improvements and enhancements to the current lobby, dining, and restroom facilities of the Performing Arts Center for its existing patrons. So the new barn would be approximately 8,600 square feet. 5,300 of that would be for the pre-gathering spaces. Right now, we're also thinking part of that 5,300, there would be 550 or so of kitchen space to allow for better dishwashing appliances and the like. And then 3,300 would be cellar space. Right now, it's only for storage. So upon completion, the new pre-concert gathering spaces would be able to accommodate 270 patrons, whereas before I mentioned it was only about 150 max. Also, you can see kind of this row here, there would be additional and much needed new bathroom facilities, which would include ADA facilities, which is not on site today. As has been the practice to date, any type of the access to this area would be restricted and controlled. So right now, if you would want to go to any of the dining areas, you would typically have to pass the box office in the entrance. Here's the main entrance area before you can even access any of these areas. So that won't change. In order to be able to utilize any of the pre-show gathering spaces, you would still need to have a ticket first before you could enter. The current type of food and drink offerings would remain the same. So we're not expanding that. And then, as mentioned, there's no changes to the parking configuration, number of employees, or the access. So finally, it's important to note, as part of this SEA request, the applicant does request certain amendments to the actual approved development conditions to more accurately reflect existing operations. And as I mentioned, the most recent approval was over 20 years ago, back in 2000. Specifically, when this concessions part of the approval was approved, as I mentioned, the terminology was an ice cream bar. And that has remained even when they got this approved, when they got an amendment approved in 2000. And so our application seeks to modify ice cream bar to restaurant, which is a permitted accessory use for the principal cultural performing arts center. Doing so will more accurately reflect the existing menu offerings and existing food service operations, all of which, as I mentioned, will remain unchanged. Next, the applicant does propose to change the maximum patron capacity of the auditorium. So if you can see my cursor, the auditorium is in this area that I'm circling. So right now, the auditorium, the development conditions state that the maximum capacity is 352. Historically, when we look back at the original SE approval in 1980, it had a max patron capacity of 350. Then in 2000, for whatever reason, they amended it to 352. So they went up 2 people. But the 352 is actually the maximum for a seated patron capacity that can fit in this existing auditorium. However, those seats are movable and can be taken out. So there are occasional performances where a standing room setting is more appropriate, or if it's rented for a private event, those seats can be removed in the main auditorium. And when those seats are removed, the auditorium can actually hold a general capacity of 382. And so again, not making any changes to the auditorium, we're keeping that the same, not modifying it in any way or adding to it. However, we would like the development condition to more accurately reflect what it can actually hold, which is the 382 patrons. So as noted, this modification would not impact any parking counts or access configurations. All of that stays the same. So at the end of the day, all of the amendments to the site and the conditions as described are anticipated to have little to no traffic impacts, given that the purpose of the addition is really just to accommodate existing patrons that are already coming to the facility. But by doing the improvements that we're making, it would vastly improve as well as better their experience for those that are coming for a show or for a private event. As noted, the hours of operation to the current performances and the overall Performing Arts Center wouldn't change. In addition, the intent of the development condition changes are to properly and more accurately reflect what has been happening over the years and occurring for many, many years. So many years now. So none of the proposed modifications result in any new trips to the site, nor change the current total number of trips that occur on site today. Rather, the existing traffic patterns related to the vehicles coming to and from the barns for either a performance or a private event are anticipated to stay relatively the same. So the next slide just shows some views of what the addition could look like. You can see there's sort of a red line that divides the portion of the existing barns and then the portion of what the new construction would look like. As noted, the current barns is comprised of 2 historic salvage barns. Similarly, the new barn will also be a reclaimed barn that will be architecturally consistent with what is existing with a seamless integration to match in size, massing, and materials. And the height will relatively be consistent with the existing barns that's there today. So here's an east elevation, and you can see my map sort of where that view is if you were looking at the barns. And then this is the south elevation. If you were looking from Trap Road, again, you can see where it's identifying the existing barns today. The red kind of shows the new construction. One thing I will note, if you all happen to have an opportunity to look at our submitted application materials that we've submitted with Fairfax County, we have actually already identified a barn that has been donated to the foundation. And so we are now trying to work with that barn to see how we can fit it into this space. And so the configuration that you see in this image is actually slightly different from the submitted application, and that's something we'll certainly chat with staff about. But in this image, the roof line is actually more symmetrical. It would possibly be a little bit wider to the north towards the internal private roadway. So these minor architectural modifications may modify the total building square footage that we've already noted. But again, we're continuing to evaluate that, and we'll certainly discuss that with staff as we kind of go through and evaluate the architectural design. But just wanted to let you guys know, because that's sort of hot off the presses, that we actually have already had a barn that we have in mind, a reclaimed barn for this facility. And this is just another view. You can see this is what you would look like from the internal roadway. So in terms of status, as mentioned, this is a special exception amendment application, which we filed in May of 2025. It is being currently processed by Fairfax County Planning and Development staff. Our staff coordinator is Karen Yee. We expect the staff report to be published in November, early November of 2025. The Planning Commission public hearing has already been set for November 19th. And while the Board of Supervisors public hearing has not been set, it is anticipated to occur on December 9th of 2025. So in the end, the applicant's proposal to permit a new building addition to the existing barns will improve and enhance existing amenities offered to patrons. It will optimize the usage of the barns and better the overall experience for all visitors. The proposed development is in conformance with the comprehensive plan. It'll remain compatible with adjacent uses, and we believe will be a significant improvement that will benefit the surrounding community, Fairfax County, and really the region as a whole. So at this point, I'll pause, and we're happy to answer any questions you all may have about this proposal.
Okay, thanks, Kathy. Before I start, I just wanted to acknowledge that John Carter, the Hunter Mill Planning Commissioner, has joined us. Hi, John.
Hi there.
Well, I'll just start out. I just wanted to, I really just have one question at this time. And my wife and I are Wolf Trap members. We go to the Filene Center quite a bit. But we've only been to the Barns once. And one thing that struck me is that it was very under bathroomed. And so actually, the question I have right now is just, so there'll be new 16 new restroom facilities. What does it actually mean? You're not talking about 16 separate restrooms, I take it. Or are you?
And we do have our architect on the line, so he can certainly talk through what the specifics of that. I know that there are, I'm assuming when you say 16, it's stalls. But Grizz, if you want to kind of provide more details of what the intent is with the additional bathroom improvements.
Sure. Yeah, there are, I believe, 7 stalls in the women's room or 7 toilets in the women's room and 4 in the men's room. We are now flipping that, so there's going to be 15 in the women's room and 9 in the men's room. So it's an added 16 total. It will still be a men's and a women's room, but we are also adding a family gender neutral room, so that it's not just men and women. It's also for assistants, family assistants, and others. So it should greatly improve. We're actually increasing by over 50%.
Okay. Yeah, the men's room was what caught my attention. It was very backed up, and that I believe there are 2 single person use bathrooms, one for women and one for men at the front, and that just didn't strike me as being enough. So anyway,
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. We need a lot more bathrooms, and that's a major part of this renovation.
okay, yeah, the Filene Center with their new work over what the new building they constructed, it opened last year. They've greatly improved the situation there, but you really need to be on one side of the. Most of them are on the, I guess that would be the north side of the facility. So anyway, they need to work on the south side at some point. Okay, well, that's all I have right now. Let me just go to the committee first, and then we'll go to John. Ross, do you want to go ahead? Ross?
Yeah. Am I on? I think I am.
Yes.
Yeah, my wife's all for this, by the way. I have to say that Barnes is not my favorite venue, and one of the reasons is that I always felt like it was cramped and close, and that I remember the ice cream bar. I'm that old. So this is a much needed improvement, and I'm glad to see it happening. And obviously my wife is too. But I have questions about HVAC, and the board has goals for carbon emissions. And I wonder about, the thermal insulation, what the heating and cooling will be, what additional natural gas requirements there will be, if any. So that's the nature of my questions, that sort of thing.
Hey, Kathy, I don't know if you want to take that or you want me to take that.
I was actually going to direct it right to you, Grizz, so please feel free.
Yeah. No, temperature control is always a a major factor in these. And so what we're doing is the salvage barn will be basically encased in a modern enclosure, so it will meet all energy codes. Every appliance that we put in for HVAC will be Energy Star rated, and will not be visible from the street. We're going to tuck it in on over this pre-function space. So energy efficiency is certainly one of our major goals for this.
Can you be more specific, or do you have the answers yet? Maybe you don't.
We're just starting the engineering process, so I can certainly follow up with more specifics. But at this point, no, we've just identified the barn, and so we're working through with the existing barn and how to best enclose that.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the emphasis on Energy Star. It seems like Energy Star might disappear, but your goal should be keeping the board's low carbon emissions agenda
Yes.
in mind when you make your decisions. And one other unrelated decision, I always felt trapped when I was in there. And so looking at the addition, I'm wondering if there's an opportunity for a patio area in the lower right. It might be, it's, the opposite of the entry area. That maybe that would be a place that would accommodate people during intermission or between meals and the show that they've come to see, that sort of thing. It seems that at most of the major venues I've been to have opportunities for people to move around a lot. And if you've got it jammed with seating and so forth, you need some area that for people to mill around, walk, in my opinion.
I think certainly that with the added space, we're really the barn that we have is a nice big wide tall barn. So I think that there's going to be a lot more space. It'll feel a lot more open, a lot more areas inside to mingle. Regarding the exterior patios, we want to be sure that we're respectful to the neighborhood. And I think that sometimes putting people outside in between shows or after shows, it's a little bit less controllable for noise. And so our goal is to kind of be respectful of the neighborhood and open the space up inside and not necessarily allow that to happen outside.
Okay, that's a good point.
Right, and just to tag on to that, Ross, we do appreciate that that comment and that feedback, but that is right, direct, like the closest neighbors are actually in that area, that lower right. So that's something we would have to kind of balance is sound, how that would travel to the closest residential to us.
Okay, I don't think I have any other. Oh, one last point. Is there provision for electric vehicle charging?
We do have electric vehicle chargings already in the parking lot today.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, this is Joe. I have a question. I'm okay with bathroom additions, whatever, but mostly it's basically expanding the kitchen and dining area pre-performance, right?
It's more so the actual pre-gathering spaces. The kitchen space is pretty small in terms of the overall of what we're adding. It's really more so adding actual gathering spaces, so to speak, I think is, and Grizz, if you have any additional thoughts to that, but I think the kitchen is an added, but it's not a huge part of it.
Okay, I always go there. I always go for the pre-dinner.
Correct. And I think that's also kind of part of this is I think a lot more people, I think in the past, maybe, let's eat dinner somewhere in DC and then come to the show, right? But what Wolf Trap has been experiencing is more people are saying, they actually offer, full dining menu. Let's just eat at the site and then we'll go to the show. And because there's been more of that demand, as those who have visited have just mentioned, it's tight, not enough bathrooms. It's just not a very comfortable experience. And so we're trying to improve that with these modifications to the facility.
Yeah, and I've been there in a while, but the dining is basically a buffet, right?
I don't know
So,
the detail of the
Currently,
actual
the dining which we have upgraded at Wolf Trap is done on a pre-order system, a toast tab system, where you can order from your table or order from the bar, and it is from a prefix menu that comes out. So it is not buffet, similar to what they do over at Ovations. It is its own unique, dedicated menu that is
Right,
only
that's it.
available at Barnes.
That just changed in the past year or so, right?
It changed with the addition to the atrium that was built and commissioned right around the start of COVID. There was a new bar that was introduced about 5 years ago, and the bar and the kitchen were added at that point.
I have another question. It's probably not the purpose of this call, but there's only one way to get in and out right now, as far as I know. So I have to sit in the parking lot for half an hour to get all the cars out before I get out. Is there another way? Any thoughts about expanding entry and exit?
So I believe there's 2 access points. And Travis or,
That's correct.
John.
I can
Yeah.
confirm there are 2.
And how do you all typically operate with access for performances? I assume both are accessible to be utilized.
Yeah, both
Yes.
are always open.
So I think if you can kind of see on this slide, I think there's an access point right here and then one over here. And so you can see the parking lot allows for accessibility with both.
All right, I used to just sit in the parking lot for 30 minutes until all the cars get out and then leave. And it
We
takes
we can take a look at that. And as I mentioned, we're still evaluating this with county staff as well. And so if that is an issue that they've identified as well, certainly we can look into that and see if there are access issues.
Okay, that's all I have. I'm done. Thank
Okay,
you.
Anne Marie?
Hi there. We are right down the street from this. So I'm extremely curious about this because Wolf Trap, the Barnes, is kind of shrouded in mystery. So I'm going to ask a bunch of questions. A lot of them are operational. I mean, it makes a ton of sense that folks would get their full pre-show food here because, I mean, there is nothing. You've got to go into the town of Vienna, and that's about 3 miles. Or you're going way out to 7, or it's just, so it makes absolute sense here. But along those lines, can you explain to me the difference between Wolf Trap Center for the Performing Arts and the Wolf Trap Foundation, which I think is the owner applicant here? Do I have that right?
So I can help explain. There's an entity that is the Wolf Trap Foundation for the Performing Arts. That is a group that both helps work in partnership with the National Park Service for what is Wolf Trap National Park for the Performing Arts. That's what you would know as the Feline Center, the Children's Theater in the Woods, the large 7,000 seat concert venue that sits on the north side of the toll road. In addition, the Wolf Trap Foundation also manages and operates the Barnes at Wolf Trap, which is traditionally a smaller style venue, never in excess of 380 people, that focuses on opera, that focuses on chamber music, smaller events like that. It is also part of our educational foundation, the Wolf Trap Foundation for Performing Arts has an educational element that also does things like provide sheet music and educational services for students in Virginia. They have the largest and one of the most renowned opera training programs. There is pretty much not an opera in the United States operating today that does not have a alumni of the Wolf Trap Opera program. And then the events that we talk about, which are the smaller ones, are traditionally just smaller events, 300 to 350 people that take place separate from the National Park Service and in Fairfax County proper.
Okay, we get a lot of, I mean, we're not in Wolf Trails, but I know a lot of people in Wolf Trails. And since I sit on this committee, I get a lot of questions about all the lots across Trap Road and the plan for those, particularly the one on the corner of Trap and Trap, which the foundation acquired from that Evergreen Homes a few years ago. And there used to be homes along there, and I assume they were rented out, but then they were all torn down. So what is the status of the land across the street?
So actually, I don't have any information about that. I'm specifically contracted to the Wolf Trap Foundation for the barns and their National Park Service work. I'm aware of the area that you're speaking about, but I don't have any information that I can provide.
There was a big rumor floating around Wolf Trails, which is the proximate neighbor, that the acquisition on the corner of Trap and Trap was slated for additional parking at one point.
What I can tell you is that currently we have no plans for additional parking. The things that we've selected as far as the new structures and the design is actually specifically designed to not change traffic patterns, to not change the number of entrants, to not increase parking a single space. We want to be very clear about what our intentions are, and where, if we have the ability to go through this process and not add an additional parking spot, that would be our preference.
Kathy, I think you said it's parked by GFA. Is that GFA of the performance space or GFA of the total structure?
It's the total. It's the entire. So it's the Center for Education and the barns at Wolf Trap combined.
So does that mean it's already overparked for its existing GFA? If you're not adding spaces because you're already, but you are adding GFA, does that mean it's already, quote, overparked?
Well, we actually meet the parking requirement, or I don't think we exceed it, or we're not over parked. When you apply the parking requirement, and we do have our traffic engine or our civil engineer on the call, we are not, even with the addition, we are still meeting the parking requirement.
So you have more parking now than you technically need for the existing floor area.
Correct.
And the existing parking can absorb more floor area.
Correct. And I'll just note that typically the hours of the, as you know, shows typically are in the evenings. The Center for Education operates on your general 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And so really the times when people would be coming to the barns would not overlap with when people are coming to the Center for Education. They generally are at differing times. And so, shows, even private events typically occur on weekends. The Center for Education really operates and generates the most traffic during a normal, weekday, that 9 to 5 timeframe. And then even when the barns, people do come for pre-show, typically shows are at 8, they open 90 minutes before. So if you have traffic coming in, it's usually around 6:30 at the Center for Education. Even if you have office workers that are finishing up and leaving, they're typically out of there between 5:36. And so again, traffic is real. There might be a small overlap, but you're not really having all the people at the Center for Education there at the same time when people are there for the, any performances or events at the barns, if that helps.
Okay, thank you. A couple more questions. Is there a cellar space with the or basement? I don't know what they call it these days.
There is, yeah. So even, I think I mentioned that the total was around 8,600 in terms of square footage. I think around 5 or half of that would be cellar space. And then specifically it's cellar space for storage. So they haven't programmed right now. It's just kind of, it would be utilized for storage. It's not programmed to be offices or anything like that. So for what I understand, you had asked about the GFA. Kind of part of the parking requirements with Fairfax County ordinance is, I think, cellar space specifically used, Anne Marie, for storage does not count towards the parking requirement, which may be why you're thinking, oh, you guys are adding a significant amount of GFA, but then that's not, your parking isn't changing. So because if you can imagine, nobody's, people aren't parking when it's storage space, it's not generating parking. So for that reason, the parking requirement's not changing, if that makes sense.
Okay. I got a question on stormwater, an issue that was driven home yesterday with a resounding exclamation point because Beulah Road flooded at Wolf Trap Creek. Old Courthouse Road flooded at Wolf Trap Creek. In fact, the bridge on Beulah has buckled. So you're doing stormwater. This is considered redevelopment. I assume you only have to do stormwater for the new coverage. Is that correct?
You want me to step in,
Yes.
Kathy?
Yeah, we do have a
This
civil.
is
and
clearly a
he can-
civil question.
Yeah, he can address that.
Yeah. So the answer is yes. We are addressing the stormwater for this project. The requirements for the stormwater management are specifically for the limits of disturbance associated with this addition here. So, and those are per the current regulations, the current stormwater regulations. So as you're
And
seeing here,
that's what I would expect, that you only have to bring, only the new part is subject to the
Correct.
stormwater. It's sort of, this is more of a global issue that was really driven
Yes.
home yesterday. And probably not as much your issue as it is the Center for the Performing Arts issue.
yes, but we're doing everything we can to not exacerbate that issue any worse by the stormwater management facility that we're proposing here, this bioretention surface pond.
Okay, 2 more questions. I see on your SEA plat a plunge pool. What is that? There's a behind the addition proximate to the Wolf Trails homes. There's something called a approximate level of proposed level spreader and plunge pool to be set at grade. Is that part of the kind of bioretention facility? Is that what that is?
It is, yes. So that's where the water discharges and dissipates the flow. So as it leaves the bioretention, the bioretention is made to hold the water and slowly percolate it through the soil. In a large rain event when it can't handle that, it'll then discharge and flow down. And then that level spreader makes sure that you don't have what's called concentrated flow that causes erosion. So that level spreader and plunge pool is what actually dissipates that water energy and then flows throughout into the naturally occurring watershed system.
Okay. Thank you. And then my final question, probably John or Mark, or is anyone from Wolf Trails here? I mean, they are all about the barns. They were the grand bargain struck when the barns was approved. Are they here at our meeting tonight? Excuse me. Or Steve, maybe you know, I don't know.
Yeah, I know this is Mark from the Supervisor's Office. I know the applicant had looked to reach out to some of the neighboring HOAs.
Mhm.
We didn't have current in the Supervisor's Office. We didn't have current contact information for all of them. So I'm not sure if the applicant was able to make some of those contacts. And actually, Anne Marie, if you have contacts for that neighborhood, please pass those along to us because that's always helpful.
I mean, I knew Dan Benson before he passed away, and he was super active with the barns. But my understanding is you are the barns. Wolf Trails have their annual meeting every year in March, and their agreement with the barns dating back to its creation was the agreement that forevermore they were permitted to hold their annual meeting at the barns. That was sort of the deal that was struck. So that meeting happens annually. I'm pretty sure it's in March. So somebody in the barns organization definitely has the information because there has to be coordination for that meeting to take place. I just, without their input, I feel like any conversation here, as lovely as it may be, is just incomplete.
So
No,
Anne-Marie,
and
can I, Kathy, do you mind?
yep, go ahead, Damon.
Yeah, great. So Anne-Marie, my name is Damon Effingham. I'm the Senior Director of Government Affairs at Wolf Trap. So you are correct in all of that information, and we utilize that information that we have for our contacts at the two closest HOAs to reach out to them to let them know that we're doing this project and to start a conversation about having a broader community meeting with them. We haven't heard back from those organizations yet. We also sent letters to the 5 abutting homes on Boyce Avenue to have that conversation as well. So we're very interested in not being shrouded in mystery. It hurt me to hear that. So I also wanted to provide my contact information here as well. Just, if there are other questions that come out of this, or there are questions that you have as community members that are outside the scope of this and ever want to ask, please shoot them my way.
Is that in the chat now?
Yeah, it's in the chat. Yeah. So please feel free to reach out to me. And as we hear, we can update y'all, and we'll certainly update Mark as we hear back from our neighbors about that conversation.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, just to tack on to that, our intention, Anne-Marie, is to have a larger community meeting, inviting that HOA, members from that HOA, both HOAs, and really kind of the general neighbors that surround, more so the immediate neighbors that surround this site. Likely we'll hold it in person at the barns to do a similar, presentation like we just did now, to provide information and then get initial feedback from how people feel about this proposal. And so I'm happy to let you know, Anne-Marie, when we're holding that meeting, since it sounds like you're relatively close. Feel free to join. And
yeah, and I mean, the neighbors between Four Corners and the barns on Trap Road, and then Trap Road kind of renames itself, if it were to continue straight, into Bois, and then it makes the left as Trap Road continues. But there's there's just all this curiosity, because just acquisition, a house comes down, nothing goes on. You wondered where those people go. We had heard that for many years it was understood that the houses there were provided for artists and, to be able, maybe opera members, to be able to, have great proximity, but also a place to live. And then the houses are torn down, and one was a firefighter training exercise, and all sorts of things. So is this being constructed with private money, or is it federal money?
I believe it's donor.
Yes, this is private. So federal, the National Park System has nothing to do with the facilities that are south of the toll road. We just partner with them for Wolf Trap National Park for the performing arts.
Well,
and
thank
even
you for
there,
answering all these operational questions. Kind of does peel back the veil a bit.
Yeah, it sounds, Anne-Marie, it sounds like actually your questions, or this comment about being shrouded in mystery, kind of relates not so much to this, what we're proposing right now. It's kind of just the general operations of
Well, you comes out of the woodwork when they want an addition, and when else is there a fora for these sort of things?
Yeah.
So
no, but that's,
I wouldn't imagine there's going to be much issue with this. It's sort of just like, hey, what are you doing there?
Right. And I think that's helpful. I'm glad that you've brought that to our attention, so that certainly that's something, if you're asking the question, I'm sure other community members will be asking that same question. So hopefully we'll have, a response to that when we meet again with the community.
Okay.
Thanks, Steve.
This is Joe again. I was curious. In and out, you have to go through from private neighborhoods. How many residents complain about that?
Sorry, say that again, Joe.
To get in and out, you have to go through some private neighborhoods. Do residents complain about that?
To get in and out of the site?
Yeah.
Well, so a lot of access can come through the Dulles Access Road coming off and doing that U-turn in front of the park. My understanding is that because of relationships like Anne-Marie kind of talked about, that kind of grand bargain that we had struck We also, in addition to having that annual HOA meeting, we provide complimentary tickets to folks in the community, a good deal. And also, as we talked about with the construction of the site, try to be really cognizant of those neighbors. So based on all of that, I think we have a pretty good relationship, even if I suppose there could be some more avenues for us to share information, which I hope we can work on with that. We don't really get a lot of complaints, is my understanding. The long of the long there. My apologies.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay, and just in response to Anne Marie's question, I don't believe, well, I know actually that we don't have any neighbors joining us tonight. And I should have said it, actually, that's something I should have addressed at the beginning. I should have asked if there were any community members, because we do provide them with a forum as well. And I also failed to give a shout out to Mark, who's Supervisor Walter Elkhorn's representative. He has the planning and zoning portfolio, land use planning zoning portfolio in Walter's office. So just want to give a shout out to him. Forgot to mention that at the beginning. Okay, well, why don't we just go on to Ed Umbrell? Ed?
Yeah, it sounds like, I had a lot of concerns about traffic getting to and from the facility, and I think a lot of those got answered. I definitely wanted to see the communication with the HOAs to see if there's any community concerns about traffic circulation in and out of the facility. And it sounds like Joe also has some concerns about traffic getting in and out, but I think the fact that there's only two entrances actually helps limit the traffic on Trap Road getting out of the site, at least when it's peak time. So I think that's probably, I'm not a traffic consultant, but I think that's probably a good thing. I had two minor questions. I was just curious. There's a single family home that's kind of in the front of the parking lot right there. I'm just curious, what is that currently being used for? I guess it's maybe not a single family home, but
This
just
area or over here?
yeah, no, actually,
Yeah.
the first place, yeah.
That is currently used as a place where we make costumes for the opera.
Okay. So, so it's part of basically it's part of the
It's
the
part
facility.
it's part of the center.
Yeah, it's the costume shop for the opera at Wolf Trap.
Okay,
Correct.
and then, yeah, and then one other thing I noticed in the application, you mentioned you only had 2 ADA parking spaces. I see at least 8 on the site, especially in front of the Center for Education. I didn't know if you wanted to, first of all, is 8 or the number, does that meet requirements? I think that might be a little bit under the ADA requirements. Does your civil engineer know off the top of his head by any chance?
Yes, I can speak to that. So we do have existing ADA on site, but given the Fairfax County regulations for the current Fairfax County regulations for ADA spaces, we're actually bringing that up to code. So we're adding an additional 2 spaces, I believe, in order to meet the more stringent Fairfax County ADA requirements. And so that is actually taken into consideration with this application as well. So with that, there is a subtraction of 1 space to add some striping, and then the addition of the 2 ADA spaces as well.
So that would leave you with a total of how many?
Total parking spaces, you're asking?
Total ADA, no, total ADA spaces.
I believe it's 10.
Okay.
I can confirm that though.
And that's fine. And Kathy, I don't know, in your application itself, I think you mentioned 2. That's what you might just want to edit that. So, but
it might be an addition of 2. I think that might be where the confusion is. But yeah,
oh,
that's a
okay.
good point.
Maybe I misread it then. All right, I apologize. So, okay, good. And then my last comment was more like, you say the last time you actually amended your special exception was in 2000. So it's been
Yeah.
what, close to 25. I'm just curious why it took so long. Has the site been functioning for the past 25 years as intended, or? I don't need a whole history. I'm just curious.
Yeah, the previous approval, as I mentioned, it has been functioning obviously since that 2000 approval. It really, one of the big parts of that previous was to create, so the Center for Education wasn't previously there. So we've, as that time has evolved, all of the certain operational things that we're seeing now are things that have evolved over time. So over those past years, the things like, not enough restrooms, not enough, or the dining facilities not being as adequate as they should be, that has obviously evolved since that original approval, or not original, but the latest approval in 2000.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for that brief history, and looking forward to the improvements. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Ed. Let's go to Jessica next. Jessica?
Thank you. I really appreciate the presentation and all the questions so far. I'm also interested in I know I'm in the town of Vienna, so not directly next to this project, but just in general, I'm supportive of the questions and considerations of the neighbors in the area and appreciate all your sharing about how you take them into account. And I'm just interested to hear what their perspectives are too as this moves forward. But I don't have any additional questions to add, just appreciate those that have been discussed so far. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Jessica. So, okay, all the committee members have participated thus far. So let's go to Planning Commissioner Carter. John?
I had a couple thoughts. We work on these and we do our Fairfax thing on them, and we talk about stormwater management, and we talk about green buildings and those. But Wolf Trap is something of national significance. So I wonder if we're underpresenting this a little bit. I go to the Barns quite often, actually. I think it's a tremendous facility. I like the size of it. I like the events that are there. But is there something to have to do with how many heavy timber buildings are there in Fairfax? Is this the only one? I know we worked on an energy on a heavy timber building in Reston. It's going to be an office building, but it's not under construction. I wonder if something could be made out of all of this, that this is the carbon neutrality building. It would be with all those heavy timbers, electric vehicles, charging stations, the Energy Star, more insulation, reuse of existing barn. That's strikes me as perhaps something you could make out of this that would have national significance. Certainly Wolf Trap, as it has to do with Fairfax, has a national significance. I just get concerned we kind of beat these things to death, and I wonder if we're presenting it right. I don't think we have to do it this way, but I wonder if more could be made out of what you're actually doing with the building. It's unique, certainly, to reuse those barns, and the way it's gone together. I always remark when I go there, it's amazing how it does go together. So I would suggest maybe making more out of that. I know that's not our usual way, but it might be something pretty good to talk about. On another topic is the outreach. Make sure is at Bois Avenue. Make sure that particularly the one that's right on the corner there is or I guess is the two closely connected. I hope we're outreaching to those people so it doesn't look like it impacts them. No trees come down. It looks like a pretty good setback. But to me, it's the way this is constructed, the carbon sequestration, the way you work with the neighbors, that you have those yearly meetings in there, so you keep abreast of the neighborhood. So it's certainly different than the neighborhood, but you try to make it a good neighbor. I would think those would be some good things to present. So anyway, those are my thoughts. I think it's a tremendous venue. I know I've been to the food service. Yes. I don't go there for the food though. I go for the events. So very good. Good project, I think.
Thank you, Planning Commissioner.
Okay, thanks, John. Well, this is the first time we've seen this. What are the committee's thoughts on actually taken someone presenting a motion, and do people want to see this one more time before we make decide on a recommendation, or is the consensus that we have enough information tonight to go forward? I know there is the question of the neighbors, and they're not weighing in tonight, obviously. So just want to throw that out there and see what your thoughts are.
All right, this is Joe. I say go forward on this.
This is Anne Marie. I'm going to take I don't want to rack up your billable hours, your Wolf Trap Barns, but because this community is so invested in a sense with the barns of Wolf Trails, like they're all tied together. This community was very involved when the barns came to be. It feels very incomplete if we make a recommendation as the community representatives for this supervisor when the community hasn't had a chance to weigh in. And I would expect they'll be favorable and share their own experiences, but that part to me is just fundamentally missing.
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, Steve. I'll say, Steve, this is Ed Umbrell. I kind of agree with Anne Marie. And I assume, obviously there's a great relationship between the community and the barns right now, but I think they have till November or late October. So I think we have some time. So hopefully they can have some communication over the next month or two and then circle back with us for a fairly quick application, maybe in September or October. But
I agree with the comments. The neighbors have to be involved, I think, because cars have to go through their neighborhoods when they leave or come in. But
okay,
I'm okay with the additions, subject to, I guess, neighborhood approval, right? Right.
Okay, well, we will meet on this again then. At what point do the Wolf Trap representatives feel that you'll be able to sort of complete your community outreach and be ready to come back for a second meeting with us?
Sure, and we haven't set the actual date yet for that community meeting. I know that there's the August recess, the board, and we would want to work, as Damon mentioned. We did reach out specifically to the presidents of that HOA, hoping to get some response in terms of getting feedback of when they feel would be the best time to hold a meeting. We'd hate to hold it in August and nobody comes because everyone's out of town. So I'm thinking that the earliest we might possibly have a larger community meeting, maybe in the fall. So I think our planning commission's in November, so we could shoot to come back to you all at your October meeting. I would hope by that point we've already met with the community. If that sounds appropriate, we can tentatively set for that. You guys meet Tuesday of, is it the second Tuesday? Is this the second Tuesday? Is that when you typically meet? Every month?
Actually, it's the third Tuesday.
Okay, well, I was just thinking
yeah.
our public hearing is the 19th, so your third Tuesday would be the day before our PC, so maybe it's best to come before you at the latest in October. We can plan to come in October to give you an update. I'm hoping it will be positive from the community. So if you want, we can tentatively schedule or plan for that.
Okay, great. Okay, well, let's do that then. Thank you. So we'll move towards adjournment here. I just want to have a conversation with John and the committee for a couple minutes about upcoming applications. But so thank you, Wolf Trap representatives, and we'll plan on seeing you in October.
Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone. We appreciate everyone's feedback. And if there's any other questions, feel free to reach out to me. Damon put his information in the chat. So between either of us, please let us know.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Hey, you too.
Thank you all very much.